I could hear the pneumatic wrench before I even reached the bay doors, the familiar hiss and rattle of an air compressor, the metallic clang of tools on concrete. My hands trembled as I pushed open the side entrance to Anderson's Auto Repair. My shop, the business I'd built from nothing over 30 years, the legacy I'd left to my son before everything went dark. 12 years. 12 years of concrete walls and strip searches and counting down days on a calendar I kept hidden under my mattress. 12 years of screaming my innocence into a system that didn't care. And now, finally free after the real embezzler confessed on his deathbed, I'd driven straight from the Colorado State Penitentiary to Fort Collins, to the garage on Maple Street that still bore my name. But the man I saw lying under a '98 Chevy Silverado wasn't running this place. He was covered in grease, his coveralls torn at the knee, working with the desperate efficiency of someone paid by the hour instead of someone who owned every tool in this building. Marcus? My voice cracked. The creeper rolled out from under the truck. My son, my boy. Except he wasn't a boy anymore. He was 38 now, with threads of gray in his dark hair and crow's feet around his eyes. But it was his expression that gutted me. The moment of joy, then recognition, then something else. Fear. He glanced over his shoulder toward the office. "Dad?" He scrambled to his feet, his movements jerky. "What are you doing here? What am I doing here?" I looked around the garage. 3 bays, all full. A row of cars waiting outside. Business looked good. But Marcus was dressed like any other mechanic, not the owner. "This is my shop, son. Our shop. I came straight here because I thought, Mr. Anderson?" A woman's voice, sharp as a blade, cut through the air. I turned to see a blonde woman in her mid-30s striding out of the office. She wore designer jeans and a leather jacket that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. I didn't recognize her. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is a private business." "Private?" I felt my blood pressure spike. "Lady, I don't know who you are, but this shop has been in my family since 1992. That's my name on the building." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Actually, this business belongs to the Hartley Automotive Group. Has for the past 11 years. I'm Jennifer Hartley Anderson, Marcus's wife." She said his name like she owned it. "And you're trespassing." The world tilted. I grabbed the workbench to steady myself. "Marcus? What is she talking about?" My son couldn't meet my eyes. "Dad, after you. After the conviction, Mom got sick. The cancer came back. She needed treatment, and we didn't have the money. Jennifer's family, they helped us. They bought the shop, but said I could keep working here." "Bought it?" The words felt like gravel in my throat. "Your mother left this to you in her will. I made sure of that before I stopped. Before I went away, before the prosecutors convinced a jury I'd embezzled $200,000 from the construction company where I'd worked as a foreman. Money I'd never seen, never touched. Money that Stuart Brennan had taken, but blamed on me because I couldn't afford a lawyer who gave a damn. Mom signed the papers when she was sick," Marcus said quietly. "The Hartleys paid for her treatments, hospice care, everything, in exchange for the shop, and he stopped." "And what?" "The house," he finished, barely above a whisper. "Your house. Our house." I stared at him. The house on Cottonwood Drive. 3 bedrooms, a garage I'd built myself, a workshop in the back where I'd taught Marcus to weld when he was 15. The house where I'd brought my bride after our wedding. Where Marcus had taken his first steps. Where Sarah had died, in our bedroom, with Marcus holding one hand and me holding the other, 2 months before my trial. "You're living there, though, right?" I said, already knowing the answer from his face. "Please tell me you're living in your own house." Jennifer laughed. "The house belongs to my parents now. Part of the business acquisition. Marcus and our daughter live in the apartment above the garage." She gestured to a door at the back of the shop. "It's quite suitable." "Suitable?" I took a step toward her, and Marcus moved between us. "Dad, please, don't make this worse." "Worse?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Son, you're living above your own garage, working in your own shop, for this woman's family. How did this happen?" "I just told you how." Jennifer's voice hardened. "Your wife was dying. Your son was 26 with a baby and no money. My father offered to help. Marcus signed the paperwork. All very legal, all very binding. I was in prison for a crime I didn't commit, I said. My conviction was just overturned. Exonerated. That means every decision made while I was wrongfully imprisoned can be challenged. Challenge away. She pulled out her phone. But I should warn you, my father owns Hartley Motors, the largest auto dealership network in Colorado. We have more lawyers than you have years left to live. And if you set foot on this property again, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. I'm sure your parole officer would love to hear about that. I'm not on parole, I said through gritted teeth. I was exonerated. There's a difference. She was already walking back to the office. Marcus, get back to work. That Silverado needs to be done by 3. The door slammed behind her. I looked at my son, really looked at him. The slump in his shoulders, the grease ground so deep into his hands it would never come out. The way he wouldn't meet my eyes. Where's your daughter? I asked. My granddaughter. Emma, right? Sarah had sent me pictures before she died. A tiny baby with Marcus's dark eyes. She's at school. How old is she now? 11. He hesitated. Dad, maybe you should go. Jennifer's serious about calling the cops. I just got out of prison, Marcus. I'm not afraid of cops anymore. But I was afraid of something else. The defeat in my son's voice. The way he'd given up. I'm staying at the Sunset Motel on Highway 14, room 127. Will you come see me? Tonight? Bring Emma? I don't know if... Please. I put my hand on his shoulder. He was taller than me now. When had that happened? Just dinner. Pizza. Let me meet my granddaughter. He finally met my eyes. For a second, I saw the boy who used to hand me tools in this very garage, who'd believed his dad could fix anything. Okay, he said. 7 o'clock. I left before Jennifer could call the cops. But as I walked back to my truck, a battered F-150 I'd bought cash from a lot near the prison, I memorized every detail of the shop, the security cameras, the schedule board visible through the office window, the way the Hartley Automotive logo had been painted over my original Anderson's auto sign, but you could still see the outline beneath. The Sunset Motel smelled like cigarettes and defeat. I sat on the sagging bed, trying to process what I'd learned. Tried calling my old lawyer, but the number was disconnected. Tried calling the legal aid office, but they said I'd need to make an appointment. Everything moved so slow on the outside. In prison, time dragged. But out here, the world had moved on without me. At 6:45, I walked to the pizza place across the street, ordered a large pepperoni and a large cheese, got a 2-liter of Coke, walked back and waited. 7 came and went, so did 7:30. At 7:45, I was reaching for my phone when I heard a knock. Marcus stood there alone. Where's Emma? I asked, trying to hide my disappointment. Homework. He wouldn't look at me. She doesn't. Dad. Jennifer doesn't want her to know about you, about prison. She thinks it's better if she doesn't know her grandfather exists? I held the door open. Get in here. We ate pizza in silence for a few minutes. I wanted to rage, to demand answers, to grab my son and shake him until he remembered who he was. But I'd learned patience in prison. So I waited. Tell me about Emma, I finally said. His face softened. She's amazing. Smart. Loves books. She's in special ed, but... Special ed? Why? They tested her in kindergarten. Said she was developmentally delayed. But I don't believe it, Dad. She taught herself to read at 4. She does these number puzzles, these patterns. Jennifer's mother insists she needs the extra help, that we're in denial. Jennifer's mother. I set down my slice. Does she live in my house too? Dad. It's a simple question. Catherine and Donald Hartley live there. Yes. Jennifer wanted to be close to them after Emma was born. They have the master bedroom. Marcus and I. He stopped. We had the guest room for a while. Had? Catherine said it would be better if we moved above the garage. Give Emma her own space, she said. But really, he rubbed his face. She didn't want me in the house. Said I tracked in too much grease. Made the place smell like a garage. I had to stand up, walk to the window, or I was going to put my fist through the wall. Deep breaths. Count to 10. All the anger management techniques the prison counselor had taught me. Marcus, I said, still facing the window. I know you think they helped when Mom was sick, but what they did was take advantage of a grieving man and steal his inheritance. That's fraud. I signed the papers, under duress. While your mother was dying, I turned to face him. Did they let you have a lawyer look at the documents? They said their lawyers drew everything up properly. Dad, you don't understand. When Mom got sick again, I had nothing. No insurance, no savings. The shop was barely breaking even. I was about to lose everything when Donald approached me. He said he'd pay for everything if I let him help restructure the business. I didn't know. His voice broke. I didn't know they'd take it all. How much did they pay for the shop? $50,000. For the business and the house. I felt like I'd been punched. That property's worth $500,000. Easy. More. The shop alone generated 6 figures a year when I ran it. I know. He was crying now. I know, Dad. But what was I supposed to do? Let Mom die without treatment? She was only 53. I sat back down next to him, put my arm around his shoulders like I used to when he was little. This isn't your fault, son. But we're going to fix it. How? They own everything. They have lawyers, money. I'm just a mechanic who barely finished high school. You're Marcus Anderson, I said. And I'm Thomas Anderson. We're not just mechanics. We're craftsmen, problem solvers. And I spent 12 years in prison learning to think like a lawyer because I had nothing else to do. I'd read every law book in the prison library, studied every case about fraud, coercion, undue influence, had imagined this exact scenario 100 times. We're going to get our property back, and then we're going to get Emma out of that special ed program and let her shine. Jennifer will never agree. I don't need Jennifer to agree. I grabbed a piece of paper from the motel notepad. I need you to answer some questions. When exactly did you sign the papers? What did your mother know? Were you told you could have your own lawyer? Did anyone threaten you? We talked until midnight. Marcus told me everything. How Jennifer had seemed so kind at first, volunteering at the hospice where Sarah stayed. How she'd started dating Marcus after Sarah died, moved fast, married him within 4 months. How her father had presented the business opportunity as a generous loan that just needed some paperwork. How Marcus, drowning in grief and medical bills, had signed without reading carefully. How, slowly, the Hartleys had taken over everything. The shop, the house, his dignity, his daughter. Does Emma know that's her house? I asked. She thinks it's her grandparents' house. They moved in when she was 2. She doesn't remember anything different, but she sees you living above the garage. Jennifer says it's because I work there, that it's convenient. And Emma believes that? He shrugged. She's 11. She believes what her mother tells her. After Marcus left, I lay awake planning. I'd call legal aid in the morning, but I knew how that would go. Months of waiting for an appointment, more months for them to review the case. Years in court, maybe, fighting against a team of corporate lawyers. I didn't have years, but I had something else. 12 years of watching, listening, learning. Prison is full of people who got caught doing illegal things. And if you pay attention, you learn exactly how they got caught. You learn what mistakes to avoid. You learn how to gather evidence, how to document everything, how to build a case. The next morning, I went to the public library, used their computers to research property records, found the deed transfer for the shop and the house, $50,000 for assets worth over $500,000, signed 3 days after Sarah's funeral. Marcus had been 26, grieving, drowning in debt. Any judge would see this was unconscionable. But I needed more than sympathy. I needed proof of fraud. I spent the next week watching. The motel was a mile from the shop, easy walking distance. Every morning at 7 a.m., Marcus opened up. By 7:30, other mechanics arrived. 2 guys I didn't recognize. At 8 a.m., Jennifer showed up in a silver Mercedes. She'd go into the office, stay until noon, leave for lunch. On the 3rd day, I saw Emma. She was getting off the school bus at the corner, walking toward the shop. She had Marcus's dark hair, but Jennifer's fine features. She carried a backpack covered in math symbols, pi, se, infinity. Strange decorations for a kid supposedly struggling in school. I watched her walk past the shop's entrance and around back, climbing the external stairs to the apartment above. Through the window, I could see her drop her backpack and immediately pull out a notebook. Not homework, something else. She was writing frantically, her whole body focused. The next day, I was waiting near the bus stop, not close enough to be creepy, just another old guy on a bench. "Emma?" I said as she passed. She stopped, wary. "Smart kid. I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." "I'm not a stranger. I'm your grandfather, Thomas Anderson, your dad's father." Her eyes went wide. "I have a grandfather?" My heart broke. "You do. I've been away, but I'm back now." She looked around nervously. "Mom says I don't have grandparents, that they all died." "Your grandmother did die. I'm sorry you never got to meet her. She would have loved you." I pulled out my phone, showed her the one picture I had, Sarah holding baby Emma in the hospital. Marcus had sent it to me during my second year inside. "But I'm here, and I'd like to get to know you. I have to go home." But she didn't move. She stared at the picture. "What's in your notebook?" I asked, gesturing to her backpack. "Nothing. Looks like math symbols on your bag." "I like math." "Defensive." "Me too." "What kind of math?" She hesitated. Then, like a dam breaking, patterns. "Number theory. I'm working on the Collatz conjecture." I blinked. The Collatz conjecture. A famous unsolved problem in mathematics. That's advanced. "My teacher says I should focus on my times tables." Bitter now. "Says I can't work on college math when I can't even do fourth grade multiplication." "Can you do fourth grade multiplication?" "Of course I can." She rolled her eyes. "I can do calculus, but when I showed my teacher, she said I must have copied it from somewhere. That kids like me can't do real math." "Kids like me." The words hung in the air. "Emma, has anyone ever actually tested you for gifted programs?" "Mom says special ed is where I belong, that I need extra help because I'm slow." "You're not slow." I said it with absolute certainty. "You're brilliant. And I think some people want to keep you thinking you're not." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Why?" "That's what I'm going to find out." I heard footsteps. Jennifer, coming around the corner. "Go on, we'll talk later." "But Emma, don't stop doing that math. Promise me." She nodded and ran. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Jennifer grabbed Emma's arm when she reached her. "Get inside." "Just talking to my granddaughter," I said calmly. "You stay away from her. Stay away from all of us. Or I'll get a restraining order." "On what grounds?" "Harassment, trespassing, being a convicted felon." "Exonerated felon," I corrected. "But go ahead. File for that restraining order. I'd love to explain to a judge how you've stolen my son's inheritance and convinced my granddaughter she's stupid when she's actually a genius." Her face went pale. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I stood up. "Emma just told me she's working on the Collatz conjecture. Do you even know what that is? It's an unsolved mathematics problem that's stumped professional mathematicians for decades. But sure, she needs special ed for multiplication tables. She's making things up. She has problems with reality versus fantasy. It's part of her condition." "What condition?" I stepped closer. "Show me the diagnosis. Show me the tests. I don't have to show you anything." But she was rattled. "Marcus is her father. He makes the decisions." "Does he? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you make all the decisions. What he drives, where he lives, how his daughter is educated." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I spent 12 years watching people manipulate the system. I know what control looks like. She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police." "Go ahead." I was already walking away. "Tell them Thomas Anderson, recently exonerated of all charges, said hello to his granddaughter at a public bus stop. I'm sure they'll rush right over." But I knew I was running out of time. Jennifer would move fast now, might send Emma to a different school, might restrict Marcus's access. I needed evidence, and I needed it fast. That night, Marcus came to the motel again. I told him about Emma, The Collatz conjecture? He looked stunned. Dad, I barely passed algebra. But your mother was good at math. Remember? She did the bookkeeping for the shop. Sarah had been the one who kept our business running. Could look at a column of numbers and spot an error instantly. It runs in families. Jennifer's mother had Emma tested, he insisted. Multiple times. They showed me the results. Did you see an actual doctor? A psychologist? Catherine scheduled everything. She said the reports showed developmental delays. Where are the reports? I don't know. Jennifer has them. Marcus, I think your daughter is gifted, possibly profoundly gifted, and I think Jennifer's family knows it. Why would they hide that? I'd been thinking about this. Because a smart kid asks questions, notices things, might realize she's living in her father's house, that her father owns the business, that something isn't right. But a kid who thinks she's slow, she'll believe whatever she's told. He sat down heavily. Oh my God, we need to get Emma tested, independently, by someone Jennifer doesn't control. She'll never agree. She doesn't have to. You're Emma's father. You have rights. I pulled out papers I'd printed at the library. Colorado law says both parents have equal say in educational decisions, unless there's a court order saying otherwise. Is there? No. Then, you can request an independent evaluation. I found a child psychologist in Denver, Dr. Sarah Chen. Specializes in gifted children who've been misdiagnosed. How do we pay for it? I pulled out a worn envelope. The prison had given me $50 when I was released. I'd saved another $200 from a settlement the state paid for wrongful imprisonment. Not much for 12 years of my life, but enough for this. I'll cover it. We'll take Emma next Saturday. Tell Jennifer you're taking her to a movie. She'll find out. Let her. I met his eyes. Son, at some point you have to stop asking permission to be a father. The next Saturday, Marcus picked me up at 8 a.m. Emma was in the back seat, excited about seeing a movie. Marcus hadn't told her the truth. Neither had I. Not yet. Where's this theater? Emma asked as we drove toward Denver. Change of plans, I said, turning around to look at her. Emma, how would you like to meet a real mathematician? Someone who wants to see your work on the Collatz conjecture? Her eyes lit up, then darkened. Mom says I'm not supposed to waste people's time with my nonsense. It's not nonsense, I said. And Dr. Chen specifically asked to meet you. Really? Really? Dr. Chen's office was in a building near the University of Denver. She was a small Asian woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a wall full of degrees. Emma, she said, shaking my granddaughter's hand, your grandfather told me about your work. I'd love to see it. Emma looked at Marcus. He nodded. Slowly, she pulled out her battered notebook. Dr. Chen spent 20 minutes just looking at the pages. Her expression changed from interested to surprised to amazed. Emma, did someone help you with this? No. Small voice. Who taught you calculus? I taught myself. From library books. And you've been working on this in secret? Emma nodded. Mom says math is boring, that I should focus on learning to read better. Can you read? Of course. She sounded offended. I read at a college level, but they make me use picture books in my special ed class. Dr. Chen looked at Marcus. Mr. Anderson, with your permission, I'd like to conduct a full cognitive assessment. It'll take a few hours. Will it cost? No charge, she said. This is what I call a professional courtesy. She looked back at Emma. You're a very special young lady. We waited in the lobby. Marcus paced. I read magazines, trying to stay calm. 3 hours later, Dr. Chen called us back in. Emma was sitting at a table, working on some kind of puzzle, completely absorbed. Mr. Anderson, Dr. Chen said quietly, your daughter has an IQ of 162. That's in the 99th percentile. She's what we call profoundly gifted. She pulled up charts on her computer. Her mathematical reasoning is at a graduate school level. Her verbal abilities are college level. Her spatial reasoning is off the charts. Marcus just stared. But the tests, her teachers said. May I see those evaluations? My wife has them. I'd like to see them, because what I'm looking at here is one of the brightest children I've tested in 20 years. She turned the screen to show us. Emma doesn't have any developmental delays. What she has is a mind that works so far ahead of her peers that standard teaching methods bore her. She was probably shutting down in frustration, which can look like a learning disability if you don't know what to look for. So she's been in special ed for 6 years for no reason? For the wrong reason, Dr. Chen corrected. She should be in a gifted program, with acceleration in math, certainly. She could easily handle college-level courses in number theory right now. I watched Marcus's face. Shock, anger, then determination. Can you put this in writing? He asked. I'll have a full report ready Monday, she smiled. And Mr. Anderson? Your daughter just solved a puzzle that stumps most adults. In about 15 minutes, while we were talking. She's extraordinary. On the drive home, Emma was quiet. Finally, she asked, Am I really smart? Really, really smart, Marcus said. His voice was thick. Then why does Mom say I'm slow? That was the question, wasn't it? I don't know, sweetheart, I said, but we're going to find out. Monday morning, Dr. Chen emailed the report. 12 pages of documentation, charts, test scores, recommendations for accelerated learning, a statement that Emma's placement in special education was not only inappropriate, but potentially harmful to her development. I printed 3 copies, gave one to Marcus, kept one, sent one to the school district with a formal request for an IEP meeting to discuss Emma's placement. That afternoon, Jennifer stormed into the motel. How dare you? She was shaking with rage. How dare you take my daughter to Denver without my permission? I didn't take her, I said calmly. Her father did. He has equal rights. He has no rights. I'm her mother, and he's her father. Colorado is a joint custody state. We're married. There is no custody, but there are parental rights, and Marcus exercised his. I handed her a copy of the report. Your daughter is profoundly gifted. She's been miserable in special ed, and you knew it. She didn't even look at the papers. That's bullshit. Catherine had her tested by real doctors. Then, show me their reports. Let's compare. I don't have to show you anything. You're right. You have to show the school district. Because we've requested an IEP meeting, and they're going to want to see the original evaluations that placed Emma in special ed. She went white. You can't. We already did. I smiled. Meeting is Friday at 10 a.m. I'm sure they'll want to understand why a child with an IQ of 162 has been in special education for 6 years. Might even wonder if someone falsified evaluations. That's fraud, Jennifer. Against the school district and against Emma. You're insane. But she backed toward the door. You're a criminal who just got out of prison, and you think anyone will believe you over us? I was exonerated. And I have Dr. Chen's evaluation. What do you have? She left without answering. That night, Donald Hartley himself showed up. Tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. Everything I'd expected. Mr. Anderson, he said, not offering to shake hands. I think we've gotten off on the wrong foot. Is that what we call stealing a man's business while he's wrongfully imprisoned? He smiled thinly. I paid fair market value. You paid $50,000 for assets worth over $500,000 to a grieving 26-year-old who just lost his mother. That's not fair market value. That's exploitation. I helped that young man when he had nowhere else to turn. You took advantage of him. And then you convinced him his brilliant daughter was disabled to keep her from noticing. Careful, Mr. Anderson. His voice turned cold. You're making serious accusations. Am I? Then show me the evaluations from Catherine's doctors. Show me proof that Emma was actually tested and diagnosed with developmental delays. That's private medical information. That Marcus, as her father, has every right to see. Along with the school district, who approved Emma's placement based on that information. I leaned back. I spent 12 years in prison learning the law, Mr. Hartley. I know what constitutes fraud. Document fraud, medical fraud, educational fraud, theft by deception. You can't prove anything. Can't I? Because here's what I think happened. Catherine Hartley took a bright little girl to a doctor. Maybe she coached Emma first. Maybe she found a doctor who'd write whatever diagnosis she wanted. Maybe she just lied to the school district about what the tests showed. But she got Emma labeled as disabled, put in special ed, and kept her there. Why? Because a smart kid might figure out she was living in her father's house, might ask why her father worked in his own garage but lived above it, might realize something was wrong. His jaw tightened. This is speculation. Then prove me wrong. Show me the medical records. If they exist. He stared at me for a long moment. What do you want? Everything you took. The shop, the house, full ownership back to Marcus, and compensation for 12 years of lost income. He laughed. You're dreaming. Maybe. But Friday at 10 a.m., the school district is going to start asking questions. And when they investigate and find out Emma was placed in special ed based on false or non-existent evaluations, they're going to call the police. And then things get really interesting, don't they? Because fraud against a school district is a federal crime when it involves educational funding. Emma's placement meant the district received special education funding for 6 years. Funding based on false information. That's wire fraud, Mr. Hartley. That's serious prison time. His face went red. You don't know what you're talking about. I spent 12 years learning what I'm talking about. I had nothing but time. I stood up. You have until Thursday to decide. Transfer everything back to Marcus, with a settlement for lost income. Or face investigation by the school district, the police, and possibly the FBI. No one will believe you. They'll believe Dr. Chen's report. They'll believe the school's own records showing Emma struggling in special ed. They'll believe Marcus when he says he never saw the original evaluations. And when the school district starts looking, really looking, at Catherine's so-called doctors, I shrugged. You really want to risk your wife going to prison? He left without another word. Wednesday, Marcus got a call from a lawyer, one of the Hartleys' lawyers, but this one sounded scared, wanted to set up a meeting to discuss terms. Thursday morning, we sat in a conference room in downtown Fort Collins. Donald Hartley, Catherine Hartley, Jennifer, their 3 lawyers, Marcus and I. The senior lawyer, a woman named Patricia Hendricks, laid out the offer. My clients are willing to transfer full ownership of the auto shop and the residence at Cottonwood Drive back to Marcus Anderson. In exchange, Marcus agrees not to pursue any legal claims related to the original transaction. What about compensation for 12 years of lost income? I asked. My clients feel they've been generous enough, given that they financially supported Mr. Anderson and his family. Stop, I cut her off. You know what happened here. Your clients defrauded a grieving man and falsely diagnosed his daughter to cover it up. So here's the real deal. You transfer everything back to Marcus. Clean title, no liens. You pay him $200,000 in compensation for lost income. And you sign an affidavit admitting Emma was incorrectly placed in special ed and should be moved to the gifted program immediately. Patricia looked at her clients. Donald's face was stone. Catherine looked like she might be sick. And if we don't? Donald asked. Then, tomorrow at 10 a.m., Marcus and I walk into that IEP meeting with Dr. Chen's report and a request for an investigation into the original evaluations. And we keep pushing until someone looks into the property transfer too. We have time. You're the ones with exposure. You're bluffing, Jennifer said. You don't have any real evidence. Don't I? I pulled out my phone. I've spent 3 weeks documenting everything. The property transfer, the timeline. I've got Marcus's testimony about signing under duress. I've got your own words about how your family helped when Sarah was sick. I've got Emma's original school records, showing a bright kindergartner who suddenly started failing after Catherine had her evaluated. I've got Dr. Chen's report proving Emma is gifted. What I don't have is any medical record from Catherine's supposed doctors, because I don't think they exist. Catherine stood up abruptly. I want to speak to my husband, privately. They left the room. We waited. 15 minutes later, they came back. Catherine looked like she'd been crying. We'll sign, Donald said. But this is the only offer, and we want full releases from any future claims. Agreed, I said. Draft it up. It took another hour. The lawyers kept trying to add language, clauses, protections. I shot down everything that wasn't clean. Finally, we had a document I could live with. Marcus signed first. His hand shook. Then the Hartleys signed. Jennifer refused, but the property was in her parents' names, so it didn't matter. One more thing, I said as they were preparing to leave. Emma, what about her? Catherine's voice was barely audible. You're going to call the school district. Tell them there was an error in her original evaluation, that you've had her retested, and she should be moved to the gifted program. You're going to do it tomorrow morning before that IEP meeting. And if I don't, then I show them this. I pulled out a folder. Inside was everything I'd gathered. Screenshots of Catherine's social media from 6 years ago, talking about how difficult Emma was, how she needed extra help. The name of the doctor who'd supposedly evaluated Emma, who turned out to be Catherine's tennis partner, not a licensed psychologist. Printouts of Emma's kindergarten report card, glowing reviews from her teacher. Catherine took the folder, looked at it, closed her eyes. I'll call tomorrow, she whispered. We walked out of that office with everything. The deed to the house, the business registration, the check for $200,000. Marcus kept looking at the papers like he couldn't believe they were real. Dad, he said as we stood on the sidewalk, how did you do that? I learned patience, I said. And I learned that powerful people have more to lose than powerless people. They were scared of exposure. We had nothing to lose. I can't believe it's over. It's not over yet. That night, we sat Emma down and told her everything. About the house, about her intelligence, about how her grandmother had lied to keep her from knowing the truth. She cried. Not sad tears, angry tears. Why? She kept asking. Why would Grandma do that? Because people who take things that don't belong to them need everyone else to be confused, I said. They needed you to think you were slow so you wouldn't ask questions, wouldn't notice that you were living in your father's house, that your father owned the business. But I'm not slow. You're brilliant. Marcus pulled her close. And we're sorry it took us so long to figure out what was happening. The IEP meeting Friday was brief. Catherine had already called, as promised. The district was apologetic, concerned, already drafting a new plan for Emma. She'd start in the gifted program Monday. They were talking about acceleration, maybe dual enrollment at the community college for math classes. Emma sat in that meeting beaming, finally being seen for who she really was. The following week, we moved back into the house on Cottonwood Drive. The Hartleys had left it in good condition, at least. Marcus took the master bedroom. Emma got her own room, not the tiny box they'd given her in the apartment. I took the guest room. Jennifer filed for divorce, said she couldn't be married to someone who betrayed her family. Marcus didn't fight it. He was done. The shop was ours again. Marcus changed the locks, repainted the sign. Anderson's Auto Repair, like it should have been all along. Business picked up once, word got around. People remembered my dad's name, respected the work we did. Emma thrived. By Christmas, she was taking college calculus classes online. Her teachers couldn't believe how fast she learned. She started tutoring other kids in math, started entering competitions. Won her first one in March. I rebuilt the workshop in the back of the house. Taught Emma to weld, like I'd taught Marcus. She loved it. Loved understanding the physics of heat transfer, the chemistry of metals. Every weekend, we'd work on projects together while Marcus ran the shop. One Sunday afternoon, about 6 months after everything settled, Emma came into the workshop with her notebook. Grandpa, she said, I think I found something. What's that? A pattern. In the Collatz conjecture. It's not a proof, not yet. But it's something. I looked at her work, didn't understand half of it, but I recognized the expression on her face. Pure joy. The joy of discovery. That's amazing, sweetheart. None of this would have happened if you hadn't come back, she said quietly. If you hadn't seen me. Really seen me. You were always brilliant, I said. I just helped people notice. Mom still thinks I'm making things up. She called last week, said Dr. Chen must have made a mistake, that I'm going to crash and burn in the gifted program. Are you? No, she smiled. I got a perfect score on the last math competition, and I've been asked to present my Collatz conjecture work at a symposium in Boulder next month for real mathematicians. That's my girl. I hugged her. You know what the best part is? What? You never stopped working on that math. Even when everyone told you that you couldn't, you believed in yourself enough to keep going. I had to keep going, she said. It was the only time I felt like myself. That evening, the three of us sat on the porch of our house. Our house. Marcus was telling a story about a customer who'd tried to diagnose their own car problem using YouTube and made it worse. Emma was laughing, really laughing, the kind of laugh that comes from deep happiness. I thought about the 12 years I lost, the concrete walls, the strip searches, the endless appeals, the feeling of being buried alive in injustice. But I also thought about this moment. My son, confident and strong, running his own business again. My granddaughter, brilliant and fierce, finally allowed to shine. Our family, together in the home that had always been ours. Sometimes you have to lose everything to understand what matters. Sometimes you have to fight through hell to find your way home. And sometimes, the people who try to keep you down only make you stronger. I raised my glass of iced tea. To second chances, I said. Marcus and Emma raised theirs. To family, Marcus added. To being smart enough to know we're smart, Emma said with a grin. We drank to that. To truth. To justice. To the long road home. And somewhere in Denver, I imagined Donald and Catherine Hartley sitting in their big, empty house, wondering how they lost everything to a man who started with nothing but patience and the knowledge that right eventually wins. Not always, not quickly, but eventually. If you're willing to fight for it,